Number 4 is a quadratics problem, and there are lots of ways to solve this, but I think the easiest way is going to be using the quadratic formula. So hopefully you don't have to memorize it, but in case you need to memorize it, you can sing it to Pop Goes the Weasel, and they even have 3-year-olds online who can sing it because it's, singing to Pop Goes the Weasel. So it's x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So once again, that's x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so what you have to do first is you have to get this equation equal to 0. So right now we have variables and numbers on both sides. One of these sides needs to be 0. I'm going to move everything over to the side with the x squared. I just tend to find that to be easier. So that's what I'm going to do. So therefore, to get this one on the other side, I have to do the opposite of positive 6x, which is a negative 6x. And the opposite of positive 20, to get rid of that one, is a negative 20. So I'll do that over here. So I'm just writing them randomly over here because none of these can be combined because they are not like terms. We have an x squared, we have an x, and we have a negative 20. None of them have this exact same variable, so they can't be combined. Therefore, we still have 2x squared over here. We have minus 6x and a minus 20. On the other side, we did the opposite, therefore this became 0 and this became 0, and that was the whole point. We have to have this equal to 0 in order to use the formula. Now we can use the formula. So whatever number is in front of the x squared is our a value. Therefore, a in this equation is equal to 2. Whatever is in front of the x here is the b value. So in this case, it's a negative 6. b equals negative 6. And then whatever doesn't have an x, okay, just the constant, is the c value. So in this case, c equals negative 20. So now we plug in because we know our a, b, and c values. So we're going to try to find x. So therefore, x is going to equal negative b. In this case, it's a negative 6. So it's a negative 6 plus, that's a 6, not a b, okay, or minus the square root. B squared is negative 6 squared minus 4ac. 4 times a, which is 2, times c, which is negative 20, all divided by 2 times a, which is 2. And then we keep simplifying. So negative 6, the opposite of a negative is a positive 6, plus or minus the square root. Negative 6 squared just means negative 6 times negative 6. Negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. And then over here, 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 20 is 160. And then we have a negative times a negative, which makes it a positive 160. And then on the bottom, we have 2 times 2, which is 4. And then we combine these. 36 plus 160 is 196. So what we have is 6 plus or minus the square root of 196. And if you type the square root of 196 in a calculator, you're going to get 14. Therefore, we have to deal with now the plus or minus situation. Plus or minus means we're going to have 2 solutions, which means we're going to have 6 plus the square root of 196, which is 14, divided by 4. Or we could also have 6 minus 14 divided by 4. We do what's in the top first. 6 plus 14 is 20. Divided by 4 is 5. Or we could have 6 minus 14, which is negative 8, divided by 4. Negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. So our solutions are 5 and negative 2. And you could plug 5 into this original equation and it'll work. And then separately, you have to do it separate. You could plug negative 2 in here. If you're curious how to do that, let me know. I'm going to move on for sake of time. Here's the U try. X squared plus 2x equals 8. So to solve for x, we first need to get this equation to have a 0 on one side. I'm going to put the 0 over here because I only have to move this 8. The opposite of positive 8 is minus 8. So we're going to have x squared plus 2x minus 8. And then on the right side, 8 minus 8 is 0. Our a value in this case is a 1, because this is a little ninja 1. It's invisible in front of the x squared. Our b value is positive 2, and our c value is negative 8. And remember, we're using the quadratic formula, which is x is equal to negative b. It's good to write it over and over just to help you plug in, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. So we've got x equals negative b. B in this case is a positive 2, so we're going to have negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 8 and all over 2 times a, which is 1. 2 times 1. So we're going to have x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root. 2 squared is 4. And then we have negative 4 times 1 times negative 8. That's going to be positive 32 all over 2 times 1, which is 2. Now 4 plus 32 is 36. And the square root of 36 is 6. So therefore, I'm skipping some work shown to get to the part where we have two possibilities. X could be negative 2 plus 6 divided by 2, or our x value could be negative 2 minus 6, because we have plus or minus. That's what this means, all over 2. So negative 2 plus 6 is 4 over 2. So our answer for this one is 2. Or x could also equal negative 2 minus 6 is negative 8 divided by 2, which is negative 4. So our, oops, that's supposed to be a negative 4. So our answer could be 2 or negative 4. So those are both our answers. And once again, you can plug this in, it'll work. You could plug this in, it'll be true, it works, so it's the answer. So the one from your homework is this one. I hope you try it before you watch the answer. So to get this equal to 0, I'm going to move this one. The opposite of negative 10x is positive, and I'm also going to move this one. So therefore, we're doing plus 10x over here, and we're doing minus 15 over here. We got to do whatever we do over here to undo it, we have to do over here. So we're going to have 5x squared plus 10x minus 15, and then these both canceled out and became to 0. So therefore, our a value is 5. Our b value is positive 10, and our c value is negative 15. And we're going to use the quadratic formula. This time I'm not going to write it for sake of time, but you know, it's x is equal to negative b. And in this case, it's a 10, so negative 10 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's 10 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is negative 15, all over 2 times 5. So x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus 10 squared is 100. And then we're going to have 4 times 5, which is 20, times 15, which is 300. And we have a negative times a negative, which is a positive. 100 plus 300 is 400. So we're going to have the square root of 400. And then remember, all of this is over 10, 2 times 5. So we're going to have x equals negative 10 plus the square root of 400 is 20 over 10. Or we could have x equals negative 10 minus 20 over 10. So negative 10 plus 20 is 10 over 10, which is 1. And then over here, negative 10 minus 20 is negative 30 over 10, which is negative 3. And the answer, therefore, is 1 or negative 3. And then you could check it. Since this is the homework problem, I'm going to do a quick check. 5 times 1 squared equals negative 10 times 1 plus 15. 5 times 1 is 5.